Superboy is the 10th limited mythic champion in the bleed calendar for DC Dark Legion. He appears once Supergirl has about 14 days left on her banner. We're going to be breaking down whether you should be pulling for Superboy on your account. We'll talk about his kit, we'll talk about synergies, all the usual things that we talk about in these Whaler Skit videos. I've had an opportunity to pull Superboy and use him a little bit. I do think that he's going to be one of those champions similar to Zatanna where you don't necessarily have to build him up as high as you would your Supergirl or Superman to make him work with the team. But obviously investing a decent amount into Superboy is going to allow you to ramp up a lot more damage with Supergirl and just the team in general. And I actually think that he has a decent amount of viability outside of the Superman family team because of the way some of his kit works, and we'll talk about that in the video. As far as recommending whether you should whale or skip on Superboy, I definitely think he's worth getting on your account. If you're free to play, you can get by with getting him at 5 white stars. If you're light spend, I think you could go into the blue and or maybe even try to get up to the high blue stars or low purple stars if you're going to be building Superman family. Otherwise, even light spenders can probably just stop at 5 white stars or maybe even 2 or 3 blue. Superboy is going to have 2 tag synergies similar to the rest of the Superman family except for Superman. If you've watched my previous Whaler Skit videos on the Superman family champions, you've heard me talk about the Krypton energy mechanic, so I won't spend too much time here. It is a little bit different from some of the other tag synergies in that you just need one champion available on your team in order to activate this. But every time a Superman family champion uses their ultimate in the match, it will add a point of Krypton energy. And as you get certain amounts of points, you'll get to the higher levels of Krypton energy. And at those levels, you're going to increase the attack of all Superman family champions present. We also have the Metahuman tag here for Superboy, and Metahuman is going to increase champions' attack and HP. Superboy's ultimate is called Super Bro, and Connor Kent is going to unleash telekinetic power. So he's going to use his guitar to fight the enemies. It's actually kind of funny mechanic, I guess. So interesting to see stuff like this coming into the game. It's a little bit silly, I suppose, but also kind of metal. And that's the whole point of the dark metal comics. So I'm cool with it. What this ultimate is going to do is it's going to increase the attack of both Superboy and the ally with the highest attack stat based on his base attack. So a lot of the other champions, like I think Vixen, for example, that grant additional attack, Zatanna does the same thing. They grant attack based on the attack percent of the champion it's being granted to. In this situation, it's based on Connor Kent or Superboy's attack percent. And so it's actually an argument for trying to get him to higher star levels, is that his base attack is going to be a little bit lower if you have him at low stars. But at the same time, I still think this can be quite impactful ultimate if you're using a full Superman family team. And we'll talk about why. The first interesting mechanic here is if Supergirl is present in the team, she's going to take priority. So he will definitely be buffing her first. And then the effect is going to be capped at a certain percentage of Superboy's base attack each time. It will stack up to 3 times, and it lasts until the end of the battle. The second cool piece of this kit is that the ally who gets granted this is going to become immune to control effects for 1 turn. And you can, if you're in manual mode, you can control who gets the buff. So if you know you've already gotten Supergirl to the 3 stacks of this, you could start buffing Superman. You're going to he's going to become immune to control effects for a turn. And really you could again use Superboy with any team. And so you can, there might be a reason that you want to play around the mechanic to try to get someone immune to a control effect. So there's something to consider there. And then the last thing is that the attack bonus is going to be doubled for Superman family allies meaning that this is going to be really, really impactful when you're doing a Superman family team as opposed to using him separately somewhere else. Okay, so Superboy's first basic skill is called Chill, and this is going to be a physical damage attack, and it's also an AoE attack, so it's a circular area AoE, and this ability will reduce physical defense until the end of the battle, and this is stacks up to 4 times. So it's going to be a little bit less than what Captain Cold or Cyborg are able to do with reducing physical defense, but it lasts until the end of the battle. There's no time limit attached to it. So as soon as he's able to get this basic skill off a few times, you're going to have like a reduction of physical defense, which will allow all of your physical damage dealers like Superman and Supergirl to do a lot more damage over time in the fight. If you invest in the multiversal force talent for this ability, it will reduce the cooldown of it, which is just going to allow you to cycle it faster. The next basic skill is S Shield. Connor Kent is going to reduce damage taken from ranged skills by a certain percentage. My understanding from the way I read the kit is that this is not going to apply for the whole team. It's just for Connor Kent, but it's a good mechanic to keep him alive a little bit longer. If you invest in the multiversal force talent for this skill, it's going to increase effect resistance by a certain percentage. So again, another good survivability mechanic there. And then Superboy's final basic skill is called In the Genes. And at the start of the battle, Connor Kent's attack will increase by 10% for each level of Krypton energy. And the multiversal force talent for this one is Connor Kent's men will increase by a certain percentage. You can see a pattern with these multiversal force talents just helping make him a little bit less susceptible to attacks. And then for Superboy's global skill, it's called TK Field. This will increase all champions' men by a certain percentage and supporter champions' HP by a certain percentage. For gear, it goes without saying, but the whole point of his kit is to try to buff the attack of the rest of your team, and buffing that attack is going to be based on his attack. So go for attack as much as possible. I think this might be a specific champion where when you're transmuting, you actually might want to fish a little bit harder than you typically would for other champions to make sure you get that attack, especially if you have a low star Superboy, so that you're able to push your damage as high as you possibly can. Superboy's unique legacy piece is called the Super 6 String, and this one is going to provide attack percent, energy gain bonus. It's going to increase effect resistance, and it will increase energy restoration speed by a certain percentage. For the skills associated with the Super 6 String, the first one is Too Cool, and it will increase the damage of the Chill ability by a certain percentage of attack with a 20% base chance to freeze the target for 1 second. So this is actually quite useful for something like Killer Tank in Combat Cycle, because Killer Tank the tires will pop for any control effects. So obviously you just have a 20% base chance. I'm assuming that will go up as you upgrade this legacy piece, but just getting that 20% base chance is going to help a lot. And then Punk Rock, after the wearer casts the ultimate, so it doesn't necessarily have to be Superboy, but most likely you're going to be using it on him. It will increase all allies' attack by 10%. And this effect has an 8-second cooldown and can stack up to 5 times. So quite useful there. And it makes this, like, I think overall, this is one of the better unique legacy weapons out there. So highly recommended if you're building Superboy high, like if you're taking him past purple stars, you should probably consider getting this legacy weapon, especially if you're going to be going for a well-built Superman family team. If you're not going to be building the Super 6 String, there are a couple of lesser items that you can use. So far, my favorite to use with him is going to be the Starheart Staff. This is going to give you HP and energy gain bonus, and when you cast your ultimate, allies within 10 meters will gain a 10% attack bonus as well as defense and men. So you're going to be cycling your ultimate fairly quickly, and you're going to be able to grant that 10% static attack bonus to the rest of your team. So that one's quite nice. And I don't like this one as much as Starheart Staff, but I do think Robot Duplicate can be effective on Superboy. This one is going to increase your HP percent, effect resistance, and then it's also going to increase the HP and attack of all allies within a certain range by a certain percent. I do think Energy Mace is one of the lesser kind of early game legacy pieces that would be useful on Superboy because of the effect accuracy and the attack percentage that you can get from it, especially when you have these legendary level legacy pieces fully maxed at 5 red stars. You can see we get 33% attack here and 33% effect accuracy, which means that the first basic skill, Chill, for Superboy it's going to, you ensure that you're going to land that physical defense reduction. And then obviously if you're on a very fresh account and you have nothing else to use, I think Flash Bulb Kite would be fairly useful here, where you're going to get that additional energy gain bonus to help cycle the ultimate. For notable synergies, I think the obvious answer is going to be Superman family. Clearly, Superboy was designed to help augment the damage dealing ability of Supergirl, and you can also use him to augment the damage of Superman as well. So I think he's going to thrive in a Superman family lineup. That's probably where he ends up being used by most people who build him. But I do think that he offers some synergy with Nightwing, as well as any other champion that's going to be able to do significant amounts of physical damage. And we'll see what else comes to the game that might allow him to be used in other lineups. As with Supergirl, I think that Flash is going to be an important early game or early champion that's probably going to be used with Superman family. I wouldn't necessarily say that there's a lot of synergy with Flash, because you're not really going to be using Flash to cycle the ultimate for Superboy unless you're trying to cycle that ultimate at the very beginning of the match to try to kind of ramp up your Supergirl. But I just want to mention Flash because I definitely think he's going to be a champion that will be important while we're waiting for a 5th Superman family champion. As far as combat cycle viability, I think that Superboy offers the same amount of viability as the rest of the Superman family team. You're probably going to be using Superboy with Supergirl, and she is going to be mostly useful against the AoE-centric bosses, so your Murder Machine and your Merciless. But I do think that Superboy offers a little bit of viability for some of the single target damage bosses, especially if you pair him with teams that are really good at single target. Right now I'm running this match with Nightwing included in it. I've also been running the same thing with Superman. You can see that Nightwing's probably about to die here, but I definitely think that he has a decent amount of viability in combat cycle, and you'll have to kind of experiment around. I'll definitely be working on a few different comps and seeing what we can put together with Superboy over the next coming weeks. I'm curious to see how useful he's going to end up being in PvP, running a match here to do a little bit of testing and kind of see how he fares. But I definitely think that he's going to be, I think the Superman family comp is going to be pretty formidable in PvP at the highest levels. I'm not sure, I mentioned this on the Whaler skip for Supergirl as well. I'm not really sure that this team is going to be able to compete with Legion for, the top spot in PvP, but I definitely think that Superman family is going to be able to topple some of the Nightwing lineups that are out there, and will most likely be able to at least compete and go toe-to-toe with the Justice League Dark teams that you see running out there as well. So definitely going to be a little bit of a meta shakeup, and I'm excited to get back around to 3v3 strategic challenge and see how that works out as well. I think that wraps up our Superboy Whaler skip. As I mentioned, I definitely think he's a champion that you should want to pull for your roster if you have a well-built Superman. And I think he works really well with Supergirl. So he's really a well-designed champion. Not the best in the world, not the most impactful. Obviously, there's a decent amount of investment that you would have to get to because of his ultimate and the way his attack stat is conferred to other champions. But for the most part, really like the kit, and I'm excited to get to use him over the next few weeks and test him out. So let me know how your Superboy pulls are going in the comments below. Definitely interested to hear from you, the community. And if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to the channel already, definitely would love to see you back for the next video.